Hey guys, so someone sent me a request to do some videos on my little tips and things I do with my point shoes. So this is going to be quite a long video, I'm sorry, but I'll try and make it as short as I can. So first up, one thing I would say is my point shoes die really quick. I've got my Freeds here actually. I had these for 1 week and this is what has happened to them. Okay, so they're just completely, the shank is completely snapped. You can even see actually on the bottom of this little line here, it's completely dead. So that was useless. These are Freed Classic Pros. They have a 3/4 length shank, so that is not a good idea for me. That's actually one of my tips I'm going to mention actually. If you have really strong feet, like you kill your point shoes really quickly, always go for a shank that's full length, not 3/4 or half length, because it's not really good for your foot. Or if you need a lot of support, then that's another thing to bear in mind. These are my third pair of point shoes I think I had. I'll just tell you what I had. This term, so from kind of mid-September to mid-December, I've had about 4 pairs of point shoes. I've had Block Sonatas, dead. Grishko Fuertes, dead. Freed Classic Pros, really dead. And Grishko 2007s. They're not dead yet, but they've softened a bit, so I'll just show you. They're not really soft yet, but you can still bend them back with relatively little force, so yeah, they'll die pretty quickly. But yeah, so anyway, moving on, get on quickly. My first tip is shellac or point shoe glue. I would always recommend gluing your point shoes or shellacking your point shoes. Hang on, I'm going to bring this down for a second. So this is just point shoe shellac from Papillon, and what I do with this is I take an old paintbrush, one that I'm not particularly bothered about, and these shoes have been shellacked actually, and I just literally dip it in the pot and I paint it on like this. You can paint as much of the stuff on it as you possibly want. It doesn't matter. You can't put too much on. It doesn't matter how much you put on. Just put on as much as you need. So that's shellac. I definitely recommend that, especially if you kill your point shoes quickly. It really extends the lifespan of your point shoes. Anywhere. So if you kill your shank, put it on your shank. If you turn your box to mush, these aren't very mushy, but if they go really soft, then literally just paint the inside of the box. You can actually pour this stuff into the box of the shoe, so that's a good thing. So that's my first tip. Another thing I do is I use lamb's wool. This is more a tip for pain easing. I used ouch pouches for a while. These ones from Funheads, just the carousel ouch pouches, and they're disgusting because they're quite old. But I used those for quite a while, and then I tried lamb's wool, and I realised it's much better. Like, you get virtually no pain, and actually this is better for your feet in terms of strengthening them. It's really good for strengthening your toes, because obviously you have to keep your toes flat when you go up and you can't curl them, and this helps you to really feel when they're straight and when you're up on your point. And also it's really good at absorbing sweat, which stops your box from going soft, so it can also help to extend the lifespan of your shoe. Big tip. So that's my first tip. And also you can use each pack of lamb's wool you get will last for maybe 3 or 4 shoes, and you can even move them from the shoe, so even longer. So that's tip number 2. My next tip is toe tape. I always recommend having toe tape, because if you start getting blisters on your toes, or if you start to find areas that your point shoes rub on, because when you buy point shoes, you're basically going through a trial phase, trying to find point shoes that work for you, which parts, if the vamp's too long, this part here's the vamp, if the box is too hard, if your shank's too soft, like this one, if the platform's too small or too wide, just anything, you're trying to figure it out. But as you do that, you often find that some things happen, like blisters, pain, all these sorts of things you have to find ways around at the time, because you can't just go off and buy a new pair because they're too expensive. Another reason why it's so important to pay attention when you're getting them fitted. But toe tape can really help to relieve any blisters or any sore patches on your feet. So that really helps. And also, I've made the mistake in the past. One thing you must not ever do, especially for starting points, this is a really good tip for new people starting to point. Do not have a pedicure before you go on point. Pedicures and point do not mix at all. You will just get extreme pain, and it's really bad, because what they do in a pedicure, hang on, I'll put it up so you can see my face. in a pedicure, basically what happens is they remove the hard skin from your feet, and you want those calluses and those hard skin in point because it protects your foot from the pain that you're getting when you're standing up on your toes. So that's an important thing to remember. And take care of your feet because there's lots of different things that can go wrong with them. And that's my next thing. I don't have it with me, but a foot roll or a tennis ball. Yeah, I don't have it with me. But basically, there's a muscle or a ligament in your foot from kind of the tip of your toe down to kind of into your arch, called your plantar fascia. This can get really irritated, and if it's really tight and knotty, almost like when you get knots in your shoulders, if this is really tight, you'll point your foot and you'll feel it cramping. My feet are awful, by the way, you can probably see. My arch is appalling. Yeah, you get really kind of cramped and knotted in there. Oh, what happened to my thing? And that's not good with your feet. So you want to kind of keep that as as little tension there as possible, and you can do that by using a foot roller, bunheads do one, or just using a tennis ball, rolling it back and forth and pressing into it. So that's a big tip of mine, and that really helps me, I found, because my feet were cramping awfully. And so yeah, and that was my next tip. My last few things. Always have some kind of ibuprofen gel or any kind of pain relief gel. If your toes get really sore, this is always a good thing to put on it. It kind of makes you last till the end of the point, which is bearable. And if you're stretching your feet, do it after you've had a hot bath or put some kind of moisturiser on them. This is actually cooling muscle gel. It's really good for sore muscles and especially your feet. But yeah, so have something like that. Some kind of arnica gel really works. Last couple of things. Always sew elastics in your point shoe, even if you don't need them. They just hold it on, especially in an exam or on stage. They'll hold your shoe on if your ribbons start to loosen, which you can't help. Oh, that's another thing actually. If you have a problem with your ribbons always coming undone, actually I'm going to just show you on my point shoe. I'm just going to slip this on without, actually I can't because they're tied together. It'll take too long. But I'll do that in another video if you want. There's a certain way you can tie your ribbons which basically stops them from coming undone, from coming out and looking untidy and messy. But if you want that video, then just kind of message me and say. Last thing, bunhead stitch kit. Always a good thing. Upside down. Always a good thing to have in your bag. The thread they have in here is like a nylon thread, and it comes with 2 needles, and the cutter on the top. Really good thread, especially if your sewing isn't up to scratch like mine. And my sewing's not very good at all. And so I would definitely recommend doing that. I said that's my last thing actually, but there's just probably 1 or 2 things. Toe caps, good if you get a lot of pressure on your toes. They're just kind of fabric, gel lined fabric on the outside and then gel on the inside. It's squidgy. Yeah. So I definitely recommend those. Yeah. If you have a problem with being able, you can't feel where you are when you're up on point. Actually, I'll just on the ground to demonstrate. If you have, this is my last tip. Sorry. If you have a problem with feeling where you are on your point shoe, if you can't tell whether you're fully onto your point shoe, if you're being pushed over or too held too far back for your point shoe, a really good thing to do, it's not done on these point shoes or the ones I have here anyway, is to darn around the edge of it. Okay, and what you do is you go in and out with the darning thread, and little stitches, big pulling all around, then kind of stitch over that thread like that, all the way around. When you're on point, you can kind of feel where those ridges are, and it helps you kind of give you more proprioceptive awareness of where you are on point, or where your correct foot placement is. So yeah, so I hope you found some of the stuff useful. If you're new to Pointe, I started Pointe about 2 years ago, but I've been on and off since, so I can't really say I've done Pointe for 2 years. But yeah, if you want any help, just message me. Yeah, so thanks for watching and subscribe.